hit the ejaculate. No, this is a harpsichord, and it is an exact copy of an instrument that's in the Danish Museum in Copenhagen. And it was built by a man named Richard Kingston. He lives in North Carolina now, but he had his shop in Dallas, Texas for years, and it turns out that I worked for him there when I was a grad student. All the grad students in the Dallas area worked for Richard at some point. We all had a time card, and when we needed extra money, we'd just show up at his shop and say, what do you need done? And he'd say, glue this, hammer this, cut this, slice this, go across town and pick up so-and-so at the lumber yard, whatever needed to be done. And we would be very grateful for the work and money that we could raise there. When I came here to audition for this job many years ago, they had told me they had a harpsichord, and I was walking down the aisle as I was brought into the church. They said, you have a harpsichord? They went, oh yeah.
You know what that is?
And I said, well, may I look at it? Well, of course. So I opened it up and it said Richard Kingston. And I went, oh my. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe I should come here. I don't know. And it turned out to be true. So this instrument has one keyboard. Some harpsichords have two. For flexibility's sake, if you're going to play the Italian concerto, it's nice to be able to play the solo part on the other keyboard and then the orchestral or ritornello on the bottom keyboard. Sometimes harpsichords also have a pedal board on them, like the organ, and they have a whole other set of strings, a whole soundboard set of strings that sit on the floor. That's how Bach and people of his time practiced organ. The churches were cold year-round. They were stone, and they never really warmed up in the summer very much, but they were especially cold in the winter. When they played services, they played in gloves, and they had the tips cut out of the finger part and the thumb so that they could play the keyboard. But it was absolutely frigid, of course. There was no heating at all. And they couldn't possibly practice in the church. They'd get pneumonia and die. So they had to have a pedal harpsichord at home to be able to play the pedal part for the organ pieces. So he composed his great organ works at the pedal harpsichord, and he practiced there for church and for any concerts that he was going to do. So, anybody know the difference between how a harpsichord makes a sound and how a modern piano does? What happens if this is the string? What happens in a modern piano? And where does the hammer come from? Above or below?
Above.
Like that, right? And gravity, of course, helps it fall away so it can repeat, right? But there's a thing called the double escapement mechanism, which makes it go even faster so that you can do that. Two different index fingers on the same note. I call it the drill effect that you can get on the piano, which is spectacular. So it hammers it from below. The harpsichord does what? It plucks. There's a little something that fits under the string, like that, and it goes punk, and pulls up.
Different sound.
And as long as the key is down, the little plucking mechanism is up in the air. So you can't repeat the note. So it has a very different feel when it comes to repeated notes or long sustained pitches. Excuse me. So, harpsichords have all kinds of decorations inside them. And this one is all about woodland animals, creatures, and plants. And there's a quote inside, and I'll see if somebody can translate it from the Latin.
Now, can you repeat that? You said each harpsichord has a thing inside. What thing?
Well, sometimes.
Decoration.
Decorations, yes. Okay. So this is the interior.
Look at that.
And it talks about music. You'll all get to know what it is. Music that charms to soothe the savage beast. This is the original music rack. Oh my goodness, which doesn't work very well for modern scores. So Richard, of course, advised it so that you can do this. Key, guard, and so you can play larger scores. called the jack rail, because inside this mechanism, these are called the jacks, the things that move up and pluck the strings. This instrument has plastic jacks, and I'll take this apart so that you can see what one of the jacks looks like.
Look at that.
Here is the little tip. Yeah. That sits just under the string. And when you push the key down, this goes up, and it goes, and makes the string vibrate. You can see it go up. That's what's happening. And as long as you leave the key down, the jack stays up. Yeah. You have to lift it far enough up that the tip of this thing goes back under the string so that you can repeat it again. Which means you can't do rapid repetitions on the harpsichord. Which, I should say, there's a weight at the bottom that helps gravity bring it back down in a hurry once you are ready for it to stop. I would make an editorial comment about how the way the instrument is designed really should affect performance practice. You have a piece that has a lot of repeated notes in it, like a fugue. On harpsichord, you can't repeat those notes very fast, which means that the tempo cannot be terribly fast. Forget it. We'll hear that. When we play earlier music, originally written for the harpsichord, on the modern piano, we need to moderate our tempos. The CPE box said one of the only handful of things about his father and how his father played. He said that my father's music, his allegro was not very far from his adagio. His adagio was not very far from his allegro, which means he played basically moderato. And he played a little faster and a little slower. And that was it. Not very much variation in there. And of course nowadays we have different ears and different aesthetics. We see allegro and we take off like a scalded dog. As fast as we possibly go. Then we see adagio. And the modern piano can sustain sound very well with the pedal down, so you get away with very low and low. That would never work. On this instrument, the sound would have died away. You'd just be standing there going. The nature of the instrument should affect the tempo somewhat. Now, what